Hey, folks who are out there already, I'll wait until 5 p.m. before I start this. There you go. Hi. I'm just sitting here getting my wine on. We'll wait a couple minutes here, guys. Thanks everybody for coming so far. Let me get my big PowerPoint up. Big one. Here we go. All right. I'm going to wait just a minute and then we'll get going, guys. Okay, I'll officially start it at it's 5 o'clock now. There we go. I got to remember to call my dad after this because it's his birthday. 79. Wow. Huh. Is there has this been referred to in Tucson in some way? I'm confused. Okay, I'm gonna get serious now. Okay, all right, everybody out there, thank you for coming to one of our virtual tasting events. For those that are new, I am Nate Norfolk. I am the Wine and Spirits Director here at Ray's Wine and Spirits. I've been here for 5 years. I'm a certified sommelier. We're doing more and more of these, and I've got folks that are new, or just everybody out there. I put up 2 new events this week. A Cabernet Franc tasting will be 2 weeks from today on March 6th. Which is really exciting. I thought pretty long and hard about that one. That was, I think, as for somebody's suggestion. And then on March 20th, I'll co-host this with Casey Stringer, who owns Stringer Cellars in Napa Valley. And he's originally from the West Bend area, and has been making wine for, on and off, for about 20 years. And he's lived all over the world and worked with some really great wineries. He worked for Robert Sinsky in Napa, Fiddlehead Cellars in Santa Barbara, Honada in Santa Barbara. His wines are great. He's a really small producer in California. He makes about 3,000 cases. So I've got 3 of his wines, which would be really, really neat. I'm in love with the Syrah that he sells, and he's got a really great approach. He's a super, super nice guy. It's kind of, he's a local guy who's moved to Napa. So that's fun. All right, everybody. For those of you that are new, I'll answer questions as we go along with this. And if you're if you're logged into your YouTube account, you can just do the live chat, and I'll try to keep up this as we go along. Follow the PowerPoint. We will taste the wines in the order that they are here. From left to right. So we'll do, first thing we'll do is the Marco Salustre Ciliegiolo. Please have all 3 wines poured if you can. It'll make your life easier. We'll do that first. Then we're going to do the Podere il Palazzino Toscana Rosso, which is actually almost all Sangiovese. And then we're going to finish with the Tolani El Paso, which is for lack of a term, a super Tuscan from Chianti Classico, but they blend Sangiovese, Merlot, and Cabernet. We can get going with this. Let's see. Ted, yeah, my dad's 79 today. I know, 80 is the new 40. I'm 42, so put the math together there. He was pretty late in the game when he got going. Nate, something is wrong with your microphone. Getting a clicking sound when you speak. Are we still getting a clicking sound when I speak? Are you getting a clicking sound when you speak? All right, we're gonna try another. Briefly, I'm going to go no audio. We're going to try a different connection here. How's the audio? We just changed out the cord. Good audio. Is the audio better? Grazie. Thank you, Eric. Okay, so thanks everybody for bearing with us. Thanks, and thank you for telling me there was an audio issue. We just needed to. It's always you go back to source. Okay, so we're gonna review Tuscan wines here today, and I've got 3 wines. We're gonna start with everybody. What we should do here is take a sip of this first wine, which is this is a Ciliegiolo, the Marco Salustre Ciliegiolo. Ciliegiolo. I'll get to this. We'll drink a little bit of this, while I'm going through all the rest of the stuff. So we've got Tuscany here, which is really, I'd classify this as part of central Italy, and it's north of Rome, as you see. And this wine particularly comes from the Maremma. That's always, if you're a Wisconsinite, Maremma is pretty hard to say. The Maremma is right down here. This is the coastal region of southwestern Tuscany, and there's a sandstone soil here called tuffo, and you can see this picture that I included is, I forget the name of the village. I'm spacing this. I had it earlier today. But this is kind of indicative of what's going on here. Beautiful, man, just beautiful, beautiful area of coastal Tuscany. And this is a very ancient village, as you see there. But the Maremma this grape is Ciliegiolo that we're going to try, this Marco Salustre wine. Now I chose this, it's a kind of, it makes sense to start with this wine, but I want to say this, and Ciliegiolo basically means like little cherry, right? Funny. But this is a grape variety that's usually relegated to as a blending grape variety to kind of like soften out Chianti and like round out the acidity or give it a little more color. It's relatively darker than Sangiovese, the other grape variety that we're going to try today. Sangiovese is kind of a more common grape variety and really ubiquitous throughout Tuscany. and all of central Italy. Ciliegiolo has been relegated to a blending grape, but it's really excelled in this Maremma area. And this producer, Salustri, they're an organic producer, and they're the University at Pisa has used clones from their vineyard to kind of register like conceptually what this grape variety should be about. They're kind of known as their vineyard site, and this producer is really thought of as like the benchmark for the grape variety. Ciliegiolo is the grape. I wish this would just stay on this. Sometimes we think of Italian wines as being really high in acidity, or if you've had much experience with them, they can be, they're not always thought of as like having a ton of fruit, but this definitely has fruit going on with it. And it's soft, relatively round. It's super, super easy drinking. Once again, this comes from this coastal area of Tuscany. The other two wines we're going to get into are from the Chianti region, but they're not labeled as Chianti, and I'll elaborate that as we get into it. I think for perspective, what we should do is kind of do a brief overview of the history of Tuscany and kind of how this became globally a very important wine region. And for most consumers out there, this is their first introduction to Italian wines to dry red Italian wines is through Tuscany. Tuscany's really, red wine is ubiquitous in Tuscany. There's some white wine, and more in the coast. We're going to find the grape variety Vermentino being grown, and in the area around San Gimignano, which is the yellow spot on this map, there's actually, which is the first DOC wine in Italy, which was called Vernaccia di San Gimignano. I'm not going to totally be pejorative about that or knock it, but I really, really almost universally think of Tuscany as a red wine region, and I feel I will die on the hill of saying, like, there's just, I don't go out of my way to look for white wine from Tuscany. When you travel to this area, especially in the late spring and summer, it can be pretty hot, and you probably want to drink some white wine, but really, it's really, really a red wine region. Ciliegiolo is fun, though. This is a quaffing red wine. I think that this is really for antipasto, more like Tuesday, midweek fare. This is kind of to me, this is like a burger wine or like an international food wine. This is one of the few, this wine in particular, I don't feel like you necessarily have to, force this into being a like matching it with Italian food. It kind of transcends that. I'm actually surprised Ciliegiolo isn't more popular. It's sometimes made in a much lighter style. And it's not odd in Liguria, north of here, for it sometimes to be used in rosé-based wines. And it makes a really soft, delicate rosé. Let's get to this. Wait, Courtney, you got this Guado El Tasso? You're kidding around, right? That's pretty sexy stuff, right? What's the soil like in this area? Okay. Oh, wow. This is like a sandstone soil, and a lot of the Maremma is a tufo is what the soil's kind. It's kind of like this like pumicey volcanic soil that has very little organic matter, but it's not like rocks, and it's hard still. Little bit of a larger overview of the region. Burger wine, say more. Yeah, I mean, like, so James, I'm answering your question. When by a burger wine, I mean, like, this is a red wine. Like, some of the beauty of Italian red wines is that they're really, really great pairings with Italian food, and like regional food and wine in Italy go together lockstep like no other cuisine and wine in the world. It makes life, from the perspective of food and wine pairings, regional dishes go with regional wines throughout Italy. I feel like, I wouldn't say this wine's made in an international style, but I feel like this grape Ciliegiolo, being a lighter acidity, not very tannic, it's a soft, gentle red wine. I mean, I'd have this with burgers. I could pair this with Mexican food. I'd have it with like classic pasta dishes. I think it would just be fun with like, charcuterie, a cheese board. It's not like this heady, heavy, rich wine. It's more for throwing it back, but has some backbone and structure to it at the same time. Really great fruit. This is like classically red fruited wine. I get like a pomegranate kind of Montmorency cherry thing to it. It's a little dusty. I like Stephanie said, like, it has the pencil shaving thing to me a little bit. Yeah, I get that, but I don't really get a woodsy character to this at all. I'm gonna keep going. I'll kind of skip ahead to look at this wine a little bit, because I'll show you what the wine. This is really the winery itself and the vineyards. And this is a very dry, even though it's on the coast, it's a dry, relatively warm area of Tuscany. And then they classically use what we would call, this is a Slavonian oak bote. So this wine's spent some time in wood, but it's more these large fermentation vessels that are pretty, they're pretty inert. I can talk about this a little bit more, but Ciliegiolo, back to this grape variety. This is, I called this Tuscany values and variety, because sometimes we think of Tuscany as just having Sangiovese based wines, or just Chianti or Brunello, or the really famous wines. There's more going on to Tuscany than that, and I wanted to focus on that a little bit. So we talked about it's Ciliegiolo is a very old grape variety. For years people confused it with Sangiovese and Alianico. To me, this has less acidity than Sangiovese or Alianico. And because the Maremma is a relatively warm area, this is they grow this grape variety there. And it means small cherry in Italian. That's right. Yeah. Pretty good. Oh, wow. Chris, you're rocking the charcuterie and cheese. Of course, no problem. Okay. Oh, I think I remember this, Courtney. Sorry. We're getting all over the place. I'm going to go back, all right? And I'm just going to go back to briefly about the history of this. Because now we're drinking, so, I want to make sure. I hate when I do these events, or we used to do them live, and I'd have somebody present, and we wouldn't drink wine for like the first 20 minutes. People would be like, what the hell's going on, dude? Okay, so, all right. Think about this. Wine's been a part of Tuscany for 3,000 years, okay? It's it's really just intrinsic with Tuscan culture at this point. The Etruscans were the pre-Roman civilization in Tuscany. And here we go. These guys are, we're making wine. We're feeding people wine. Look at, we got our amphora down here. We're partying. We're sharing. This is like, this 3,000-year-old little sculpture guy, bas relief, maybe somebody call. Oh, Chris is saying this seems kind of like Beaujolais to me, that it's light, fairly smooth, and you can drink it with almost anything. Yeah, that Ciliegiolo kind of has a Beaujolais vibe to me. I actually find like some Beaujolais has more acidity than this. This is like, yeah, to me it's like, it's definitely got more of the kind of sour cherry pomegranate thing than Beaujolais has. Yeah, and it definitely has I get like a rocky / dusty. I love the pencil shaving idea too out of it. I think if you guys come back to this wine, like, you're gonna find it'll really like kind of soften up. It might be pretty great tomorrow too. I'm actually gonna pour myself just a touch more of this because it's a slammer, man. How significant is the vintage with this wine? I mean, I think 18, like, let's just talk about Tuscany in a nutshell. Holy shit, guys. I'm swearing out of the gate here. But, like, in the last 10 years, to me, the only thing that's even been remotely, like, not a great vintage is 2014. Tuscany is just, like, 9, 10, 13, 15, 16, 17, 18. These are amazing vintages for Tuscany. Like, so great. I don't think this could have a little more bottle age. It's not going to get better. You know what I mean? This isn't something to lay down. It's something to drink. And definitely like this whole idea that this wine has got this beautiful primary fruit with it right now, and that it's just soft and luscious and pretty like quaffable. Like you could drink a ton of it. That means it's a wine for immediate consumption. And it's really, I hope everybody finds this pleasurable right now. It's not something to hold on to forever. I like this. It's kind of a, like, less acidic, less really bright, super focused. Like, it's just got a more playful, fruity character than, like, the wines of Chianti do. And it's definitely, like, lighter than, like, a lot of the other wines from Tuscany, like Brunello or Vino Nobile del Montepulciano, or wines from Pomino, or all these other regions of Tuscany that I could talk to death about. Okay, so we talked about the Etruscans a little bit. But let's think about this, man. Nobody's really sure what the Etruscans are really, the pre-Roman people here. We're not sure if they brought grapes from Asia to what is now current Tuscany, or if they just cultivated what were the indigenous grape varieties there. Nonetheless, they were merchants of wine and exported wine via boat throughout the Mediterranean, and so they were a wine culture before the Romans were there. And hence when the Romans then called the region that the Etruscans lived in as Tuscany, from the term Etruscan, yeah, kind of fun, right? But then, the Romans were here, and this is, Valtero is the name of this village. So here's Roman ruins here. And obviously there was Greek trading with the Etruscans also. But the Romans absorbed the Etruscan culture, and currently the places we think of now as the historically significant and cultural centers of Tuscany are towns that were established by the Romans. Pisa, Siena, Florence, Lucca. These are Roman cities. And the Romans basically consolidated trade and travel throughout throughout and brought them sewers, aqueducts, the whole kind of thing. Any we would still know today? How many varieties of grapes are native to the region? Hannah. Wow. Great question. I mean, like, so let's think of like when I'll get in this, I'll talk about Sangiovese in a little while, Hannah, and then when we talk about Sangiovese, we'll talk about specific areas within Tuscany have different clones of Sangiovese, but this Ciliegiolo is an indigenous grape here. A grape called Colorino would be considered indigenous grape. Malvasia is a very ancient variety, but maybe wasn't indigenous to Tuscany, but has been there for 1,000+ years. Trebbiano is another white grape variety that's there. I said Colorino. I did Ciliegiolo. We talked about Sangiovese. There's oh boy. I mean, like these are the main things. There's clones of Sangiovese that I'll get into too, called Prunello Gentile, Sangiovese Grosso, Sangioveto. We do see Aglianico grown also in Tuscany still. Those are the big guys. There's more. Tuscany has over 20 some wine regions that are like produce their own wine and have legal connotations to how those wines are produced. So there's a lot of variety here, but really the cornerstone and the main red grape variety is Sangiovese. I'm showing this Ciliegiolo definitely to offer something that's a very explicit contrast to what are the normal red wines of Tuscany. Stephanie's been to Volterra. I've never been to Tuscany. I've been to northern Italy twice, and the Veneto, Piedmont, Emilia-Romagna, but I just haven't made it to Tuscany. It's on the bucket list. Okay, we talked about the Romans. Okay, the Middle Ages. So we go through this Etruscan period, we go through the Roman and Greek influence, and then really the rise of organization of fine wine being made in certain places and marketing that way. This is the Abbey of Sant'Antimo, which is in Montalcino, where Brunello is made. And of course we've got our totally, it wouldn't be Tuscany without the cypress tree. Wow, beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the Benedictine monks really, especially in France and Italy, really did a great job at kind of passing down the tradition of winemaking, figuring out best practices, having more of a focus on quality too, because a monastery needed to sell wine in order for it to make the ching, make some money. Question from the group. Do you speak Italian? Oh my God. No. I don't speak even a little bit of Italian. Even though I took Latin in high school. What a Jesus. I can read it okay. But we get through this area, we get through this time of obviously the Middle Ages, and then we say when we think of the Renaissance, this is really when Tuscany becomes the cultural epicenter of the Western world in many ways. But most importantly here, we with Botticelli and Florence and Siena both being these are the center of art as we know it. But in 1710 is when Tuscany starts to, modern Tuscany starts to export wine outside of its borders. Much wine starts to leave. I picked this, this is a Rufino, the producer Rufino. This is their Chianti bottle. This is, a Chianti bottle from the early 20th century. And this style of bottle was called a fiasco. That's what the the reed wrapped old bottles are, were fiascos. Was there a specific variety of grapes grown for the church? Oh, Hannah, at the time, mostly probably like these clones of Sangiovese. Really, by this time, Sangiovese, Colorino, Malvasia, and Trebbiano are very, very much, those grape varieties are the main things that are going on. And the Ciliegiolo, those 5 grape varieties by the Middle Ages and Renaissance period are probably what are the most prevalent thing. Sangiovese, Colorino, Ciliegiolo, white grapes, Malvasia, Trebbiano, and man, I know that there's probably some type of Muscat, and I'm probably spacing that. I'll have hey Courtney, I'll have a little more to drink, and then we'll do the bad Mario thing. Do it, Naderino. See. So yeah, this is the old style bottle. This is kind of fun to see this next to it. So up until World War II, it was this was like a cottage industry for people in Tuscany to literally weave the basket part of these bottles, and they would be handmade. And for a variety of reasons around this time, right around just post World War II, we see the Sangiovese vineyard in the Bulgari area, and the Antinori family. They start to be like, oh shit, I mean, we're taking our wine more seriously. We're modeling it after Bordeaux. And that's really when you see the rise of this style bottle as opposed to the fiasco. And people associate this what we call a Bordeaux style bottle as it just became associated with fine wine the world over. And people looked at the fiasco as kind of like the old style of wine. There's a little bit of a renaissance now with the fiasco bottles, and I'll be sure to elaborate a little bit more on how Chianti changed over the years, and especially post World War II. Okay, so we talked about the Ciliegiolo. I'm making sure I'm keeping up with the questions. This is, it's funny because this is coastal, but the Maremma parts of it are relatively high elevation, and because of that, it's very easy to grow organic viticulture here. And this is if anybody is concerned, these are organically grown grapes for this. It's all hand harvested. These are, and it's in large. It's aged for 6 months in what is a 22 hectoliter barrel. It's a big barrel. Those barrels that I showed you before. So we're dealing with Tuscany. We've been making wine here for at least 3,000 years. At least 3,000 years. At least 3,000 years. Talked about Ciliegiolo. Kind of doing that. The Marco Solustre guy is I think this is a fun wine. He's really resurrecting something that was a somewhat obscure grape variety for the area. And he only makes a few thousand cases of this wine, which is kind of wild. So 25,000 bottles, which sounds like, when I say bottles, it sounds like a lot, but this is this is less than 3,000 cases of wine a year. It's nothing. It's trap in the bucket. But really kind of at the forefront. The Maremma, this area also makes a clone of Sangiovese called Morellino. Morellino di Scansano. You know, the whole Sangiovese thing, like, once again, we think about it, it's just a grape variety, but really, like, villages within Tuscany have been cultivating their own clones of these grape varieties for hundreds upon hundreds of years. Yes, Hannah, this is a really good point. Okay, so back to the Fiasco bottle. Did the Fiasco bottle serve a purpose? Yeah, so the Fiasco bottle, when as Tuscany rose to prominence as an exporter of wine, the Fiasco bottle was seen as a, especially like, you know, pre the Industrial Revolution, the Fiasco bottle was, we didn't have super thick glass, so we wrapped it in these reeds and straw because it was less likely to break that way. The Fiasco bottle was seen, the wine kept better in bottle than barrel. And people figured that out. And they were like, the wine's of a higher quality if it's in the bottle, because if I start to ship the barrel, the wine oxidizes and it just gets kind of skunky and isn't as good if I'm moving this barrel around. But if I put it in bottles, it's good. Here's a crazy thing about this, and that like, it'll make sense, but like now you would think this is so weird if people did it. But initially, especially like up until the mid 19th century, though Chianti in those Fiasco bottles would be topped up with a little bit of olive oil, because they knew that if we created a layer of the oil at the top, it would prevent the wine from oxidizing and it would keep it better. So you would just pour, like, the wine as you pour it would displace, the oil would be displaced as you poured the wine, so you really wouldn't get the thing. But then when you moved the wine back, the oil would flow to the top and form a layer on it again. Crazy, right? I mean, like, you'd be super weirded out if it was like that now, but like, this was this sign of quality back then. I hope that answers the question about the Fiasco. Okay. Yeah, and Hannah, this is a really good point. Was wine a safe alternative to water in terms of pathogens? Yeah. So once we think about like wine and kind of like this is really a great part and a kind of a beauty of like just like Italy in general and the kind of pre-Christian traditions of wine drinking, and this, you know, and the concept of Bacchus, or there being some kind of like wine god. A lot of it was about like, hey, the wine people were drinking, you know, 2,000-3,000 years ago probably was nowhere near as strong as the stuff that you and I are drinking. And usually it was consumed within a few months of it being made. And then when it got bad, people would add like spices and honey, and, you know, it wasn't there, like the concept of connoisseurship wasn't really there. It was more a commodity, and very much so people consumed wine in antiquity because it was a safer beverage to drink than water. Or it wouldn't be weird to add wine to water to make sure the water was safe, or vice versa, you know? Or water down a little wine. Like, people knew that the wine was like, their pathogens weren't growing in the wine, and that once the wine got weird, it would be aromatized, or we would add things to it to have it keep. Really, super cool question. Yeah. Wow. Other regions that have sandstone. Ooh. There's going to be sandstone in Campania. Oh, wow. I'm really trying to think of other places that have tufo, and I can't off the top of my head. Weird, right? And it's a relatively, I mean, like, sandstone is a relatively high pH, so it's like a low acid, so it's great for grape varieties. That's a great question. We did this. We saw this. Slavonian oak. I should have written that down too. Like Slavonian oak, it really refers to Slavonia as kind of a really in what we would think of now as the former Yugoslavia, but predominantly Croatia. And then we'll keep moving. So the next two wines are really are more based around Sangiovese. This is no matter how I do this, I'm not going to have any much brevity. But we're going to drink the Podere il Palazzino, Rosso del Palazzino. This is I love this wine. Just full on, like, full disclosure. Oh, wow. 16 is an incredible vintage, too. So everybody should have this. I do want to say this about the Ciliegiolo. I have a finite... I put all these wines on sale on our website. The Ciliegiolo, the store has less than 2 cases left. I bought the rest of what's available of that wine, and then it's gone. So if we sell out tonight, it's just it is what it is. Sorry. When I do these events, I really try to think about like access to wines, but the more fun it is, the more fun it is, like, the wine is, usually the less I have of it. And the Ciliegiolo, really, there's less than 2 cases available right now. Wow. Okay, so this is the Palazzino. I'll forward ahead just so everybody looks at it. This is the wine we're going to be drinking now. Man, there's a lot going on in the nose of this wine. I get like in a good way, I get like kind of a tarry thing going on. There's lots of like an anise slash damn it. It's the thing that tastes like anise, but it's like the bulb. It's big, it's white, it's kind of vaguely black licorice-y. Oh my, fennel. Yeah, it's got like a fennel. It has like a fennel, like a roasted fennel kind of quality to it. Classic Sangiovese kind of cherry-ish things going on. I get a little cedar on this too. I get the pencil thing on this. Wow. Man. Yeah. Oh, man. Wow. Yeah, everybody's like fennel. Dark cocoa chocolate. Yeah. It's got a little bit of the cedar thing too. I know I already said that. I get an orange peel on this too. And I get like a kind of bay leaf character. I'm a little stuffed up in my left nostril. So this, and I'll bump ahead because this is the, it's a 17th century winery. The guy that owns it right now is Alessandro Sederci is his name. They took over the winery in the mid 70s. They converted all to organic agriculture. Now, this is the confusing part, and I wanted to really illustrate this with some brevity, but it's gonna be tough. So this is a winery, like these guys are in Gaiole, which is this is a sub-region of Chianti Classico. So this wine, for all intents and purposes, this could be called Chianti Classico, right? But Alessandro is like, no, okay? We make Chianti Classico. These are the youngest vines in our vineyard. And I'm just not, they just aren't Chianti Classico to him yet, right? And also this just gives him the ability to just market the wine as a non-Chianti wine, which he just gets to call it like a Toscano Rosso, which can sometimes have broader appeal from a marketability standpoint because the whole world has its own misconceptions about Chianti, you know, and it's just delicious, man. I love this stuff, like year in and year out. I put it on sale for $12. It's just one of my favorite wines out there for the money. That I can just sell. Like, this is such super, super high quality. They do a Chianti Classico Reserva. They make a Super Tuscan. I probably should bring in some of the other wines, but just their baseline wine here is so, so good. This is a marl soil type. So this is like, we're in Gaiole in Chianti. This is a pretty high region. I'll go back to my, we're much more inland when we look at this. We're right here in my little, we're like north, northeast of Siena, and they're pretty damn high up in this area. So they have great drainage. They don't have to worry about water. They've got enough rain here. Sangiovese is relatively drought resistant, but that's one thing that can happen in Tuscany is, but this is a soil type called marl. And it's specifically in Tuscany, we call the rocky soil here is galestro, and there's probably in the notes somewhere. Yeah, galestro. It's just this rocky, dusty soil, which is great for Sangiovese. You get concentrated, really like rich Sangiovese, but it's not heavy. It still has a brightness to it. Oh man, I love this wine. So once again, like we could call this Chianti Classico, but we opt not to. So he just calls it Rosso del Palazzino. It just gets a Toscana thing. This is kind of like a relatively modern concept among Tuscan producers, especially people in Chianti. This really nowadays fits the bill of what you could call a Chianti. Before 2000, if you were in the Chianti Classico region, you actually had to add some white wine to your Chianti because that was the classic. That was legally part of the blend that you had to do. I don't want to introduce this two crazy concepts because Tuscan wine there's a lot going on and there's a lot of history here, and in the last 20 years things have changed a lot there. So the question is, can I drink this? Can this be enjoyed right away? So this is the 2016 vintage I've got, and the current they've released 2018 at this point. The importer and the wholesalers here in the U.S. sold some 2016. I intentionally got this wine because the vintage kicks ass so much. I easily think that this could be aged another 5 years, and I think over that time it'll probably be very similar. The fruit will probably soften up and it'll get more savory over that time. I probably wouldn't age this much more than another 5 years, but I would file this under, you could have this be a 10-year-old wine and drink it up to 2026. So the question is, I'm being posed with, please flash back to the 3 Bas Relief guys. Hold on. No, because that's the Mosaic. These guys in the Bas Relief? Is this? Okay. So I'm going all over the place here. This is like just getting schizo. But somebody's asking what the term Reserva means. So for Chianti, in the Chianti region, Reserva means the wines have to be aged for at least 1 year in in oak, and I think there's a capacity of how large the oak has to be. But yeah, so Reserva for any of the Chianti regions is 1 year in oak. Now, other Tuscan wines, when we say Reserva in Brunello in Tuscany, Brunello di Montalcino, a Brunello wine has to be a minimum of just shy of 6 years old. It actually can't be released until the January that's 6 years after the harvest. So like a 2015 Brunello Reserva wouldn't be able to be released until now. Like 2015 Reserva Brunellos would come out. Vino Nobile del Montepulciano is another region in Tuscany. Their Reserva wines have to be minimally 3 years old. So Reserva in Tuscany has different connotations, legal connotations, from one region to the next. In general, with Italian wines, Reserva is a legal connotation. It's not just like some like, I think these are my better wines. There's a criteria that it has to be held to. Yeah, it does look like the guy in the middle. It does look like that's his Schwanz. I don't know. I mean, go ahead, comment on it. It's just a goddamn mosaic, guys. You know, back in the day, I mean, we just, you know, like maybe you've been culturally ingrained in you now to like think nudity is weird, but like the Romans knew how to party, man. You know, think about that one. I talk to my kids like this sometimes. Maybe I don't. I'm on the fence. Sometimes I feel like I'm not a good dad. Well, he does have a beard. I do have a beard. Hey, you know, and for those who were commenting last week, I trimmed this beard because it was getting crazy. Yeah. Oh, now everybody thinks it's funny. Of course. I've heard that wines younger than 3 years should not be aired. Is that correct? Hey, Hannah, here's my thought with like for aerating any wine or any red wine, just any wine. Like think about this. Any aerating any wine, like if it's just a few years old, you're not going to hurt it. Okay? It's not going to hurt it to aerate it. The time you shouldn't aerate a wine, in my opinion, is if something's really old for what it is. So if I had like a 20-year-old Cabernet, I'm not going to aerate it, and I probably wouldn't decant it because exposing that wine to oxygen is the thing that will ruin it, that will kind of give it that vinegar kind of quality. And by like keeping an old wine in a bottle and just having it be upright and pouring it from the bottle slowly exposes it to oxygen, and oxygen is the thing that ruins it. So I kind of flipped the script there. Okay, we're doing this, the Palazzino. Any questions or comments about the Rosso di Palazzino? Got it. They're in Chianti. These are the younger vines in the vineyard, but they're like, we just want to make the wine that's indicative of the winery. We're not going to call it Chianti. This just is the step below what would be our Chianti. So good. Oh God, this wine's so great. I mean, this to me is like anything with tomatoes is the friend of this wine. Like basil, tomato, caprese, you know, a puttanesca sauce, like ossobuco. I mean, like just classic Italian dishes. This wine is great. Like I'm drinking this instead of like, you know, more expensive wines from Piedmont. You know, on Saturdays when I get, well, like we usually have pasta on Saturdays, and this is like this has been in my repertoire for a couple years now. And this wine I have a ton of, and I can get more of. So the floodgates open with this totally. Jeffrey Hunt, isn't the rule 1 year is Chianti? Jeff, Classico in Chianti. I'll go back to the map here. So Classico, the Classico is a regional. So when we see Classico on Italian wines, think about this. Like, look at this part of my Chianti Classico map, right? See the gray, Jeff, is Tuscany, right? This whole gray area is Tuscany. I always say like Chianti is like it's like a fried egg, right? Okay? Like, and then we look at this smaller map, like this whole gray area is Chianti, right? All of this gray shit. And it's non-contiguous. So meaning like, like here's a little, like over by Montalcino, this is Colle Senese, but it's Chianti still, right? And then we're up here, and this is Chianti Rufina over here, right? And this is this, and they're not contiguous. This whole gray area is Chianti. This pink area in the middle, this is Classico. So Classico is a regional designation to Chianti. So the Classico is a sub-region of the larger Chianti area. Riserva is a connotation of aging and aging specifically in oak of some type for at least a year. Make sense? The gray shit is very blurry. The gray shit is very, very blurry. That's totally fair. It's all blurring together. Maybe you drank too much, Courtney. Huh? Is that why it's blurry? I'm just kidding. Yeah, I didn't realize how blurry this map was because when I made it in small. But nonetheless, think about this. Chianti, brown guy in the middle, Classico. Chianti, larger area, pink guy, Classico. Got it? Fried egg. Like Chianti's a fried egg. Classico is the yolk. That's the analogy I always make. Cool? Got it? Good? Make sense? All right. Yeah, I will say this. Palazzino is a really, really, really good producer. They're organic. They almost exclusively use old oak. I think I put remember? All right, I'll bounce back. Right? Ah, shit, I didn't put their barrels in here. They're like old oak people. They use Bota. They use Slovenian Bota. They're not using new oak for anything they're doing, okay? Once again, when I talk about Sangiovese as the grape variety, this is the main red. Sangiovese is remember, Italy's red grape variety. This is the thing that's the most widely planted red grape variety in Italy. Right? And look at the color of this. It's not super dark. Like, all the time I've got people like it's not weird for Rays to have somebody. Man, Kelly Walsh, slow your roll, man. I know you're drinking number 3 now. Tammy Rinaldi, yeah, you're right. The Black Rooster region. That I can't get into that or it'll. I'm not talking about the El Paso yet, guys. God damn it. Okay, just talking about Sangiovese, okay? It's the most widely planted red grape variety in Italy, okay? And it's got this kind of orangish red. It's got like more of a bricky orange color even when it's relatively young, right? It's not going to be super, super dark and extracted. It's high in tannin. It's high in acid. It can age for a pretty long time, right? But it's also, let's look at this. This addresses like, here, there's these other grape varieties there. Well, Sangiovese has all these different synonyms in regional names in Tuscany. We call it Vino Nobile del Montepulciano, Prunello Gentile, Sangiovese Grosso, Brunello is the clone, Nuluccio, Morellino is the clone in Scansano, in Montefalco in Umbria. It goes, and we got to Morellinos in Scansano. Hopefully that kind of answers that. Sangiovese's got a little. I actually think sometimes Sangiovese is more over here color-wise than over here, like closer to Syrah. Okay. Ben, dude, how you doing, Ben? Okay, we talked about this. And now we're gonna we did the Palazzino, talked about this, went into Chianti a lot. And remember, this Palazzino number 2 was really, it's almost 100% Sangiovese. They say that there's some other grape varieties that are blended in there. It's showing you, it's got that high tannin, high acid light color. Now, finally, let's have the Tolani El Paso. Most of you at home are going to have this wine, which is the 93 Point Wine Advocate 2015 El Paso. I don't have any more of this to sell. I ran out. I had to give it all because a lot of people bought kits. This, though, is, I'm drinking this. I'm drinking 2017 of this. I'm drinking the 2017 vintage of this wine. I'll have 2017 here on Wednesday. If you want to buy any of this wine, you'll have to buy the 2017. That's what's going to be coming. Which got, I don't know, it's got like 94 points from James Suckling. 17's also has gotten really good reviews too. But most of you at home are going to have 15 of this wine. And I have the notes on the 15, but the 17 blend is nearly identical. Now, I'm showing you this picture from, we're drinking the Tolani El Paso now. And this is Sangiovese, nearly equal parts Sangiovese, Merlot, and Cabernet Sauvignon. Once again, this is in the Chianti Classico region, but it doesn't adhere to what the legal blend is for Chianti Classico. They use Merlot and Cabernet Sauvignon, grape varieties that have a really long history in the 19th century. People were growing Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot in Tuscany, but it really wasn't until right around the end of in the 1940s, just right at the end of World War II, that the Antinori family in the Sangiovese vineyard started to plant Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, I believe Merlot there, and started to make Sassicaia and a whole host of other wines that we call super Tuscans. And this is a wine that's emulating a lot of those wines that really came to prominence in the mid 20th century in Tuscany. This is much, much, much less expensive. The Tolani family, Pierre Tolani moved to, as he was a very small boy, he grew up in Canada. He became like a shipping magnate. This is an estate they bought roughly 20 years ago. And kind of rehabilitated. El Paso means like abreast, and the connotation is kind of up high, and that it's in between like Montalcino and Siena, and you can see all these places from the top of this hillside where this wine is from. Yeah, I get the cherry jujubes thing. This is a slightly darker wine from a color standpoint, and I get oak on this, and I get like a slightly dill, cedar, menthol. I get more of like a currant, kind of blackberry-ish quality. I started to get dark fruits out of this where I didn't get them on the other two wines. It has that kind of currant Cabernet character. Slightly eucalyptus. Yeah, there's a dill thing for sure happening to me too. These guys had, for a long time, they employed a guy named Michel Roland as a consultant, who's actually a very famous, he's more known for making, Bordeaux than anything else. He was a consultant in Bordeaux. So even as kind of a nod to Bordeaux and the French, they brought a French consultant in for this. Definitely with the intent to make a internationally acclaimed wine. That this is the first wine we're drinking tonight that uses what are called barriques, which are small French oak barrels. So when I showed, like, here, this is their cellar. This is literally like their, here, you know what? We'll do this, and I'll make this bigger. So kind of blurry picture, but All right. There you go. Yeah, this is barrique. These are small barrels, and you get a lot of oak on this wine. In the 20 years that they've owned, they make a they do a kind of a wine called Val de Sante too, that I think is all Cabernet and Merlot. They do make Chianti Classico here. The focus is more kind of super Tuscan style wines. These guys are kind of like within the land of like what the wine press thinks is quality to value. They're really up there, meaning they make very highly rated wines in like the $20 to $30 region, almost more so than anybody else in Tuscany. And that's like a kind of upstart winery. Yeah, man, this has got some longevity to it. I'm drinking the 17. I had the 15 and thought it was gorgeous, but this has got body for days. I mean, like if you guys opened all these up, this wine I think is going to be rocking tomorrow. I think it needs, if you can aerate this and give it a decanting, I mean, it's good. Or keep it in the bottle and have it tomorrow. I think all these will hold up. The Ciliegiolo might get a little meh. The first wine, like, really, it's all about like, hey, I'm here to party right now. My fruit is on fleek. I don't even know if kids say that anymore. The fruit's there right now with that. This is a little more brooding. It's darker. It's more complex. The wood is here in this wine big time. And it's got that dark fruit thing that like Sangiovese kind of lacks to me. I love Sangiovese has very red fruit characters. It's totally like maybe dried strawberry, maybe dried raspberry, sour cherry, there's nothing dark fruited about Sangiovese. This wine is like currant, blackberry. It almost has a pruny character, and I don't mean that in a bad way either. Yeah. A few people might have the 17. 15 and 17 are both killer for this thing. Yeah. Whew. And this is kind of confusing because it spends like a year in oak during the fermentation process, and then another 8 months in barrique. So it gets this is in contact with wood of some type of small oak barrels for around 20 months, and it really, really shows it. And to me, it's funny. It has the aromas like Sangiovese, and I even get like a kind of nectarine smell to it. But it's got that kind of Cabernet and Merlot red character to it. Yeah, I mean, to me, and I called this variety and values and variety, because here we go. This is like this is a really good glimpse of what people mean by a super Tuscan. So when we see this phrase super Tuscan, these are my words. Super Tuscan is just the easy way to say the wine doesn't fit within classic parameters of the red wines from Tuscany, i.e., it has grapes of French origin, Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Syrah, as part of the blend, or it excludes grapes that would traditionally be used. Meaning, like, sometimes, like, back in the day when we would make a Chianti Classico, it would always be a blend, right? It would always have Colorino or Ciliegiolo or incorporate white varieties. So once in a while, like, somebody makes a Super Tuscan that's just all 100% Sangiovese. And that was weird at the time. That was up until about 15 years ago. You just didn't make 100% Sangiovese wines. Now it's like totally. In Chianti, at least, you didn't make 100% Sangiovese wines. Now it's very, very commonplace. This is rounder, but very Syrah-ish, says the guy who loves Syrah. Yeah, I mean, it definitely has a spice thing going on, but to me, yeah, I mean, compared to the other two wines, I can see how this is kind of reminiscent of Syrah, because it's a lot bigger. And I think that that's kind of the appeal and why a lot of these producers kind of went in this way of the whole Super Tuscan thing. And is they just, frankly, they want to make bigger wines. They want to make big, fatty, super rich, thick, massive wines, which I always question. I mean, like I think that Tuscany has an embarrassment of riches as far as a variety of different soil types, and like Sangiovese is we think about it as one grape variety, but it really is different from place to place in Tuscany in really cool ways. And I know that this tasting isn't about that. Like, I could have done this just about Sangiovese. And hey, maybe that's another one. But the Super Tuscan wines are almost always meant to be bigger, richer, heavier, fuller bodied, and to be like a kind of this next level beyond what Chianti would be. Yeah, so I put all these wines on sale today on the website, and they will be on sale for another week. So I put this at $18.98, which is a crazy great price for this. Like, just totally ridiculous. Yeah. To me, of these three wines, the real traditional thing is the Palazzino, the middle wine. And I can see this being something like folks that like Bordeaux or California wines could really get behind. I know Chris said he likes Syrah, and this is appealing to him too. I guess the thing, if I were like, how this doesn't have the pepper spice thing that most Syrah has. And God, the more I smell it, the more it's like, the more I get that crazy like nectarine skin character to it. And the dill and the cedar. Yeah, I gotta have some water. Yeah, and that's the other thing about Super Tuscan, because people ask about these a lot, and it's like, it doesn't have any legal connotation, okay? It's totally, and I spelled it as no legal connotation. It has no legal connotation. Super Tuscan just is a marketing term. The history of all that's pretty interesting, because like when the Antinores and those folks did made the Sassicaillas and Tignanellos of the world, that these were wines that were of extremely high quality, but they didn't use the traditional grape varieties of the area. And because of that, they were declassified. The wines had to be labeled as Vino di Tavola. So, like table wines. So, in the mid 20th century, bringing in these French varieties into Tuscany and making very, very high quality wines from them that were internationally recognized created a sea change in Tuscany, whereas the focus became more on high quality wine, less on volume, there was an attempt to make wines intentionally for an international market. And really, I think a lot of these guys just wanted to compete with France. Like, kind of like, for lack of a term, it was kind of, they just wanted to measure their junk against the French guys' junk. And in a lot of ways, some of those wines, like Massetto is a wine that's now $700-800 from Tuscany. Sassicaia was the wine of the year last year from Wine Spectator and costs a couple $100. So, yeah. So Tuscany, kind of. I'm not going to wrap this up quite yet, but Tuscany has really garnered, especially in the last 40 years. Man, it's one of the world's top 10 great wine regions, from a quality standpoint. Yeah, I mean, I agree with Kelly. Like doing a Sangiovese class would be like, dude, if we could do 8 different Sangioveses, would just be a complete mind blower. Because you got to think about, like, within all this stuff I'm showing everybody, there's all these hierarchies about how the wines are aged, where they're from. There's so many different factors to this. So, like, where the wine is from, what type of vessel it's aged in, whether that be like amphora, stainless steel, very large oak, small oak barrels, or new versus used oak, and then time, like how long these wines are aged. These are all variables into how the end product tastes, and tastings like that are the contextual tasting of that nature with one grape variety is really, it's how I learned how to understand wine or a single grape or style of wine in a very broad way. So, I mean, as always, I gotta say, I look forward to doing that again someday. These are pretty fun. My hope when I do a tasting with 3 wines is that I'm gonna pack as much breadth into this as I can with 3 different wines. So, to me here, I did like the outlier with the Ciliegiolo, the first wine. I did the traditional wine with the Rosso del Palazzino. And then I did the kind of newer, more modern wine with the El Paso. So I hope that's appealing to everybody. Right. Oh, here is the El Paso. Here's their estate where you can see, I don't know, that's probably San Gimignano in the distance or something. I think that's it. All right. So at this point, folks, no, 10 varieties. What are we doing? Okay. Thanks, Nate. All joking aside, this was fun and very informative class, especially considering you only had 3 wines to take us through. Looking forward to Cab Franc. You do a great job packing it in. Whoa, dude. Hey, man, family store. This is awesome for a 3 wine. Appreciate the limitations. Yeah, man, it's like I'm gonna really geek out here. I don't know if people are familiar with Brian Eno or he created something called Oblique Strategies, and it was about like creating art within some kind of limitation, and I don't know. That's kind of how this is. Yeah. Well, so I'm gonna stay live for about another 10 minutes or so at least, and like I'm opening this up to questions. Let me know if there's anything else you want to discuss that's related to this. Because Jesus, man, Tuscany is so confusing, man. I gotta say, like, oh, cool, Kelly. I'm glad that you're gonna dig the Cabernet Franc thing. Yeah, I know. I'm really glad. Thanks, whoever recommended like do Cabernet Franc. Like, great idea. I'm super excited about it because I'm gonna do like I dig the wines I picked, and I don't think they're super. They're like relatively inexpensive. You know what? I don't know why I'm drinking the. I will say this because people ask me this all the time. I totally don't personally have a favorite wine, except if I had to only drink one thing ever, one style of wine, it would be champagne for sure. Like that I don't even have to think twice about. I gotta try not to get crunked because I got a bunch. Actually, you know what sucks? When I'm done with this, I have a ton of paperwork to do at this place. So whoever thinks that I have the sexiest job in the world, the mountain of special orders I have to deal with, and the research that goes into it, and all the correspondence with my 30 plus vendors for wine that goes into doing special orders, and that now with the pandemic, I'm like I've become the really the only one who does this wine special orders. By God, it is a Sisyphusian struggle, my friends. Man. Nonetheless, I gotta say, like, I'm hands down think this Palazzino is it's like my favorite thing that we did. Okay, so Ross, my guy, my man Ross. No, Sangiovese is not only grown in Tuscany. Sangiovese is the most widely grown grape variety in Italy, and it's grown like on this map of Italy over here. Like it's ubiquitous also in Emilia Romagna. It's grown in Lombardy too, which is north. You can't really see this, but Umbria, which would be right here, the Marche, Abruzzo, Molise, Lazio, Campania. You could probably find it. There's got to be some in Calabria. I know there's some in Puglia, and there would be some in Liguria even too. It's grown all over Italy. And then when I go back to this, I kind of my little when I was doing my little oh shit, I guess I didn't cover where else this has grown. There's about 2,000 acres of Sangiovese in the United States. People grow it in Washington and California. Wow. I mean, it's predominantly an Italian animal. There's definitely a fair amount in Australia. I can't currently think of anybody in South America that's doing it, but there has to be an Argentina Sangiovese. Because Sangiovese, I mean, like, Argentina's totally Italian immigrant. Like, that's what's going on. I mean, I can think of a bunch of places like Benessere and Napa kind of specializes it. The area called Atlas Peak initially just, I can't remember if that's north or south of the Stag's Leap area in Napa, kind of southeastern Napa. Atlas Peak definitely started out specializing in Sangiovese. Unti. Yeah, Unti and Sangiovese. Unti makes Sangiovese. I don't think Unti is distributed here anymore, but yeah, they're definitely making Sangiovese in Dry Creek. I just received a request to pronounce the Italian towns regions with a Wisconsin accent. We gotta go to Arezzo, Siena, Florence, Lucca. Wow, what are some other ones? Rada in Chianti, Berendanga, Castelnuovo, Pomino, Montalcino, Montepulciano, Bob Mangan. Do all the organizations that give wine points do it in the same way? For example, are 94 points from the Wine Spectator the same as 94 points from James Suckling? Dude, James Suckling is just so... Here's the F-bomb. James Suckling is so fucking liberal with his scores. We like make jokes about it. I think the guy's got like a 9-point scale. It goes from like 91 to 100. The guy, I mean, if somebody's not greasing those palms, I don't know what's going on, man. The guy's like, I mean, like I know this is so un-PC. I make jokes because I'm like, is he a Nazi? He gives such great... It's like they're hiding him in Argentina. The guy gives such great scores sometimes to like ridiculous South American wines, and I'm like, what are you doing here, man? He also lives... He also does live and has a residency in Italy. So he really, really leans hard on James Suckling, really gives Tuscan wines lots and lots of love. And I'm knocking on the desk, so I'm making a clicking sound there. Yeah, my Wisconsin accent's not probably as good as my Italian accent. Lisa, I won't forget to call my dad. I will. Oh my God, Nate, so harsh. Oh, man. The Palazzino is really good. Wow. Okay. I'm not going to berate. My kids are actually gone tonight, which is, like, amazing. Okay, guys. I'm going to wrap it up here. I'm going to, like, by 6, I'm going to give it 2 more minutes for questions. What was the good joke? Oh, the Argentina thing. Oh, yeah. Chris, you and I are definitely on the same wavelength with humor, man. I gotta, there's a lot of NSFW stuff, man, that just I can't even do. That if we were in a live class, I probably would do. But that we're recording this, I gotta rate it in at least like un poquito. All right, guys, I'm going to end this stream. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Once again, remember, okay, so the Ciliegiolo, if you want to buy it, when it's gone, it's gone. The Palazzino, buy as much as you want on the website. The El Paso is not going to be here until Wednesday, okay? That wine is shay gone. I can't get it until Wednesday. All right. Thanks so much. Take care, everybody. Feel free. I'll put my, if you want to ask any questions, I'll put my email address up here. Questions or requests to... Ciao, ciao. Grazie, bella.